Welcome to Open Data 101, presented by the Go Open Data Association in collaboration with the Canadian Open Data Society. There are official definitions of open data, which we'll get into later, but we thought it would be more practical to start with some context, which we find in this video from the county of Grande Prairie, Alberta.
The County of Grande Prairie has joined governments across the world who are opening their files and unlocking their hard drives, unleashing the potential of open data. This open information is changing the way people work, make day-to-day decisions, and solve problems. Open data takes information that the government has been collecting for its own use for years and makes it available for anyone to use. The data is uploaded to an online data catalog and is free and accessible 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. As always, sensitive information or information subject to confidentiality and privacy legislation will remain private and secure. Most of us think of data as just numbers, statistics, and spreadsheets. But data is our day-to-day experiences, what goes on around us in our homes, on our farms, in our communities, and across the world. We can take that information and use it as it is, slice it and dice it into a format we find useful, or even combine publicly available data with private data and create something completely new and useful. Open data makes our governments more transparent and accountable. But just as important, it makes it easier for citizens to communicate with government and with each other. That leads to collaboration and cooperation. People become more informed and engaged. Businesses can save time and make smarter decisions. Around the world, open data is being used in a number of creative ways, simplifying tasks people do every day. Here's some examples being used. A smartphone application to find the nearest walk-in clinic, pharmacy, or emergency department. In just one tap, you can view the location, the hours, and even the services the clinic offers. You can even access a one-stop source of highway construction information, which is used to help commuters find alternate routes around construction zones. And these are only a few of the endless possibilities for open data. Open data is a powerful, innovative concept that allows easy access of information to citizens in order to build better workforces, better communities, and a better society. Open data, making the County of Grande Prairie and you partners in growth and innovation.
Now let's dive into some basics about data and open data. This pyramid illustrates the relationships among data, information, and knowledge. From the bottom to the top, you can see that data is basically facts and figures which relay something specific, but they're not organized in any way. Moving up to information, that's contextualized, categorized, calculated, and condensed data, which leads to knowledge, the know-how, understanding, experience, insight, intuition, and contextualized information. You might say data is like atoms of information. Information is what you get from data by applying process to it, and knowledge is the understanding or insight you get from information by drawing a conclusion from it. Digital data versus information for the public. There is a distinction between data for computers and for people. Data in a digital form works for computer programs, but not for people. We can't read code easily. There are two kinds of data, quantitative and qualitative. You can use numbers to describe quantitative, things like counts, measurements, coordinates. Qualitative, you can't count it, but you can observe and record it, colors, shapes, textures, jurisdictions, etc. Now examples, counting how many votes, that's quantitative, but votes for a party or in a poll area, that's qualitative. In addition to types of data, we need to understand that there is a data spectrum, as defined by the UK's Open Data Institute, or ODI. Now that runs from being closed data to shared data to open data. The spectrum also notes that data can differ in size, small, medium to big data, and also classes of data, personal, commercial, and government data. Closed data is typically related to internal confidential data, some of which may be shared, for example, sales reports, but only with internal access. There is some overlap into shared data via named access, such as providing access to a Google spreadsheet. Shared data has a number of variations which overlaps into both closed, as I just mentioned, and open data. The sharing can happen via group-based access to data, for example, medical research data, some sharing for COVID-19. Sharing can also happen via public access to data and information, such as a Twitter feed that links to a file. But open data, that's the ultimate, most desired endgame for the data spectrum. Open data defined. So, what is open data? The often referenced definition is provided by the Open Knowledge Foundation. Open data and content can be freely used, modified, and shared by anyone for any purpose. This is the succinct definition, but let's expand a bit here. Open data is also viewed as being timely and comprehensive digital data that can be freely accessed, used, reused, shared, mixed, and built on by anyone, anywhere, anytime, for any purpose. Open data is free, both in the technical sense, for example, not limited to one type of software that can read it, and the legal sense, not costing anything, and you're told you can mash it up with other data. You can republish it, interpret it in any way for commercial, political, or other purposes. Now, what is the framework for open data? Let's take a look at the core principles of open data. The principles for open data have gone through an evolution over the years and now landed on 6 principles that were developed via the community and the International Open Data Charter, who are the curators for the principles as well as leading open data-related initiatives. Here's our attempt at describing the principles in layperson's terms. Open by default. As the name implies, it states that all government data should be available and open to access. There are exceptions to this rule, such as personal information and security data. The open by default principle is often the cornerstone of open data, open government policy. Timely and comprehensive. This principle speaks to the value proposition for the effective use of open data. In most cases, if the data is not current or the data set coverage not complete, the ability to use the data may be greatly diminished. Accessible and usable. For open data, accessibility is an imperative. This means the data must be easily found, for example, in an open data portal versus being scattered across several web pages. And it needs to be easily accessed. To be usable, open data needs to be digital and machine readable in common formats, for example, CSV files, not a PDF. In addition, the data must have open data licensing that allows it to be used without restrictions. Comparable and interoperable. The principle speaks to the need to compare data and to have the ability of systems and software to exchange data. To be most effective and useful, data should be easy to compare within and between sectors, across geographic locations, and over time. To be able to exchange and or combine data, there's a need to have data standards in place. Challenges include trying to combine data sets with differing formats, such as the date. One set has year, month, day. The other set has day, month, year. For improved governance and citizen engagement. Open data has the capacity to let citizens and others in government have a better idea of what officials and politicians are doing. This transparency can improve public services and help hold governments to account. Open data provides opportunities for enhanced and meaningful citizen engagement, for example, hackathons, which we'll discuss later. For inclusive development and innovation. Finally, open data can help spur inclusive economic development. For example, greater access to data can make farming more efficient, or it can be used to tackle climate change. We often think of open data as just about improving government performance, but there's a whole universe out there of entrepreneurs making money off the back of open data. These principles may appear to be overwhelming, but Rome wasn't built in a day, and implementing these principles cannot be done in a day either. Rather, they are implemented incrementally through changing data collection, data maintenance, and data archiving. There are also some overarching principles, such as the open government principles of transparency, accountability, and being participatory. The open data principles align with the broader open government principles. The Ontario Information and Privacy Commissioner's Office, or IPC, provides a key framework for transparency via their Access by Design document and also their important Privacy by Design principles. All levels of government typically will have someone responsible for providing access to information and managing the Freedom of Information, or FOI, process, and a different person to manage the privacy aspects of providing data. For example, must not release personally identifiable data. The personal data graphic illustrates some examples of personally identifiable data, including your name, address, health conditions, income, cultural profile. However, this type of information is available from agencies such as Statistics Canada in an aggregated form, so no individual can be identified. How to find access? Well, one of the greatest values of open data is actually discovering data and accessing it through your own organization's open data portal. Most people don't know what their organization has, and in the old days, you needed to jump through hoops and sign a data sharing agreement with the department you were getting it from. And often the data was in a format that you couldn't use. Now we have consistent data sharing licenses that most public sector organizations use, and you'll find most open data portals have a number of standard data formats, such as the CSV files I mentioned earlier. Today, it's still awkward to find thematic data, for example, environmental data, which can reside in 4 levels of government portals and associated agencies, such as conservation authorities and civil society groups. To address this, what's coming in the next few years is a federated data search, so you'll be able to search the combined open data portals across Canada and potentially international data from organizations such as the United Nations and the European Union. Open Data Access, Ontario's data authority. This is simply an FYI to keep you current on what's happening related to data access in Ontario. The Ontario Digital Service is exploring what an open data authority might look like and what it could do. The graphics here are 2 slides from their August 25, 2021 consultation webinar. The initiatives seek to increase access to high-value government data, improve data infrastructure, ensure privacy and transparency, and promote equity and accessibility. It's notable that at this stage, just starting, they state that the data authority will not share personal data, identify you, compromise the safety of your information, or collect additional information about you. This is something that we should follow to see where it goes and how it might benefit our organizations. Open data outcomes in our everyday lives. Open Day started as an initiative of civil society, promoting access to government data, thereby promoting transparency. One perceived benefit was to ease freedom of information requests for routine inquiries. Here's some added examples where open data is put to work. Weather forecasting, transit data for ride scheduling apps on mobile phones. And there's more. Genealogy and cemetery data, election voting, turnout, expense, and donor data, scientific observations like counting crows, neighborhood observations like noise data, government budgets and programs. The Open Government Partnership includes 78 nations, Canada is one, and 76 subnationals, Ontario is one, as members. But now everyone can publish open data. Private businesses, Google, GitHub, Uber, and others have opened selected data sets. Nonprofits and charities, notably FundTracker by Aja, a Montreal company, uses and generates open data on corporate and charitable grants and donations. Scientists. The publication of open science data actually began in 1957 to allow the verification of scientific claims by allowing others to look at the reproducibility of results and to allow data from many sources to be integrated to give new knowledge. Famously, the human genome is open data, and there's an open data consortium for geospatial data. From a citizen's view, Barcelona comprehensively reversed the usual unconsented flow of data permissions from citizens to corporations and governments. They are leading a group of fearless cities worldwide enacting similar principles. Real-world experience. In looking at the real world of the open data ecosystem, there are a couple of areas that stand out. Collaboration and sharing among stakeholders. The Niagara Area and Municipalities and Region Open Data Portal, or the Ontario Public Sector Open Data, PSOD. This is a collaborative with municipal representatives and a good member as co-chairs. The move towards data and process standardization. Examples, the Standards Council of Canada Data Governance Standardization, or Municipal Information Systems, the Association Pilot Project on Open Data Standards. And finally, Community engagement. The best example here are the many in-person and virtual hackathons happening frequently around the world. Complexities. Reality checks. We felt it was important to do a reality check on open data, especially with the public sector where most open data lives. Government is often portrayed as being bureaucratic with a corporate culture that is resistant to change. This characterization can vary greatly among organizations, but getting buy-in to something new will always require a business case, illustrating the value to both the organization and the people they serve. One of the often used arguments for moving forward with open data relates to the larger principles of open government, being transparent, accountable, and being participatory, which all politicians can agree on as being important for public service. There is also a strong case for moving forward by referencing the fact that open government and open data has become the norm in many organizations, which likely includes some neighboring jurisdictions. This is also true from a thematic or departmental perspective, where making their data open has enhanced internal processes and service delivery. Certainly, Rome wasn't built in a day. And we say again, neither is open data. There is a process that typically involves developing policy, preparing data for publication, designing and creating an open data portal, undertaking community engagement, and maintaining all aspects of an open data program. This can be done incrementally, by starting small and scaling as resources allow. For those starting out, it's beneficial to tap into the open data community, to learn from those who've gone through this, and leverage their best practices. The early days of open data saw the initiative being done off the side of the desk from dedicated people who believed in the value of open data. Today, it's important to recognize that there should be a plan to resource the development and maintenance of an open data program. You may wish to use a pilot project to help build the business for a proposed program together with a resource plan that should include an open data steering coordinating committee, an open data lead, and also a department, departmental leads, and any external resources support. Bottom line, your open data initiative will be limited to your organization's capacity. Having said that, open data has the potential to create improved internal processes, which offsets the need for new resources and reallocates resources to different tasks. This can vary significantly depending on your organization's current state. It's doable, and many have gone before you. Open data community, local to global. The open government and open data community has grown significantly since its beginnings in 2008. Aspects like data sharing has been going on much earlier than that. We've noted a sampling of nonprofits from local, like the Go Open Data Association, to national, like the Canadian Open Data Society, and longtime open data advocates and researchers, such as Open North and the Governance Lab from NYU, which Good also collaborates with. At the global level, we have the International Open Data Charter, which Good is a supporting institution, and the Open Government Partnership, which began with 8 members in 2011, with President Obama as co-chair, and now has 78 members. These organizations and many related organizations provide information that assists with developing a policy framework, operational guidelines, and ongoing research. And there is open knowledge in the Open Data Institute in the UK. These are all a small sampling of a much larger community that you can tap into. In Canada, there is a collaboration at all levels of government, including the Federal Provincial Coordinating Committee. A provincial example is the previously mentioned PSOD, Public Sector Open Data Collaborative. Local collaboratives include Niagara Open Data, which includes 13 municipalities and school boards. And there is the West Parry Sound Geography Network, providing shared services of GIS and open data for 7 local communities. As open data has matured, there has been an increase in community events. With Good and CODS, there are typically monthly events, such as our GOODcafés and webinars, in addition to the annual conferences held by both organizations, Good in the spring and CODS in the fall. One notable type of community event is called a hackathon, not to be confused with the bad people that hack us. No, hackathons bring together people in the community and are open to everyone to participate in a challenge that addresses a community need. Now, you don't need to be a programmer to create an app. It could be about defining principles, creating a framework for policy, or simply researching the topic to recommend next steps. There are a wealth of opportunities to get involved and to expand your network that can assist you with your open data initiative. Open data resources. For those who are new to open data, there are many resources that you can leverage on your own and a community with groups that you can contact to help you begin your open data initiative. We've noted both good and CODs providing some resources, while other nonprofits such as Open North, GovLab, the Open Knowledge Foundation, and the Open Data Institute have numerous resources and initiatives underway, together with government resources such as the Federal Do-It-Yourself Toolkit, the Ontario Government Open Government website, and a variety of resources from the local level, such as Toronto's Open Data Master Plan and other municipal plans. Open data, is it for you? After all we've talked about in the prior slides, you may be asking yourself whether open data is for you. So here's a few scenarios that might help you decide on the relevance of an open data program. Repetitive data requests. We know that many different types of data are constantly requested by internal and external clients. Requests such as zoning bylaw boundaries, building permit status, COVID-19 statistics, flood plan boundaries, budget data. It's been found that in these types of circumstances, there are efficiencies in creating a process that makes the data available as open data that both internal and external users can access via standard open data license. Data for operational needs. It's been discovered that sometimes different departments will go to external resources to acquire data for their operational and project needs, often at considerable costs, while not realizing that the same data is available within their organization. Many organizations don't have a comprehensive inventory of the data that exists. Lots of data is in silos, and there is little data knowledge sharing. Often you hear, "I don't know, someone else could use our data." Open data addresses this scenario. Value proposition for data collection. Every organization is structured by operational functions, for example, finance, IT, planning, engineering. Over time, these departments or divisions have developed processes for their mandate and collected the data that supports planning and day-to-day operations. The cost of data collection and maintenance is substantial. It's been shown that making your data available as open data also fosters innovation, with entrepreneurs creating apps or services that were never previously considered for that data. This creates an economic development opportunity. So, is open data for you? At minimum, you owe it to yourself to research the potential benefits of open data to your organization and to your citizens and stakeholders. You may already have open data operating in your organization or have a policy mandate to undertake open data. So reach out to those who have been down this road and create a plan that suits your organization with appreciation of the capacity to undertake this program. This presentation was visualized and written by Yuri Konga. I'm Keith McDonald, producer and narrator. For more information, go to goopendata.ca.